A loser's strategy. The average person who avoids losing and expects to win 100% of the time is the person who often has the loser strategy. Expecting to win 100% of the time and never failing is a loser's reality. As Rich Dad said, a winning strategy must include losing. Most people today have a retirement plan that does not include the possibility of losing. Most people today simply expect the stock market to always go up, and that when they retire, their nest egg will last them as long as they live. That is a plan that has no room for losing, and that is why it is a loser's plan. Winners know that losing should be part of any plan. It's all about how winning and losing is perceived. Remember, our attitudes become our realities. In order to retire young and retire rich, one of the most important things you can learn to do is to take control of your own reality. If you can learn to do that, making more and more money with less and less effort will become easier and easier. If you cannot control and change your reality, then getting richer and richer may take longer than you like. It was my rich dad's ability to continually change his reality that ultimately made him rich. If you truly want to retire young and retire rich, the place to start is with your own realities. What do you think is risky? Having two strong men as father figures gave me the opportunity to be aware of different realities. Although at times confusing or even contradictory, having to listen to two different realities was beneficial to me in the long term. I realized that both men thought they were right and occasionally thought the other was wrong. While my two dads were making their big career moves, I was in college at the military academy in New York. When I returned home for Christmas break, Mike and I were in Rich Dad's office discussing what we had learned at school and the new people we had met. Having met young men from all over the country, I made this comment to Mike and Rich Dad. I've noticed how differently people think about money. I have met kids from very wealthy families and kids from very poor families. Even though most of the kids at school are academically bright, the poor and middle class do seem to think differently from the kids that come from rich families. Rich Dad's response to my last statement was swift. They don't think differently, he said. They think exactly the opposite. The middle class thinks that job security, a big house, and saving money are smart, and they believe the rich are greedy, while the rich think that building a business, owning apartment houses, and investing money is smart, and they believe the rich are generous. Your reality is defined by what you think is smart and what you think is risky. You mean you don't think building a business is risky? I asked. No. Learning to build a business is like learning anything else. I think clinging to job security all your life is a lot riskier than taking the risk to learn to build a business. One risk is short-term, and one risk is long-term. If you work for job security, you will work hard for most of your life. If you work to build a business, you may work harder at the start, but you will work less and less in the end, and you'll probably make 10 to 100 to 1,000 times more money. So which one is smarter? And what about investing? I asked. My mom and dad have always said that investing is risky, and they think that saving money is smart. Don't you do things differently when you invest? Rich Dad chuckled. Saving money and investing money require exactly the same activities, said Rich Dad. You will do the same things, even though your thinking is exactly the opposite. The same, I asked, but isn't one riskier? No, said Rich Dad. Tell me, what do your parents do to save money? They look for sales and clip coupons and food items, and they drive to the different markets and buy the items advertised on sale. They spend a lot of time shopping to save money. I do exactly the same things your parents do, but I shop for investments that are on sale to fill my portfolio. And my parents shop to fill their freezer, I said. You do the same thing, but my parents get poorer and you get richer. You're getting it, said Rich Dad. It is their reality, their thinking that causes them to be poor or middle class, not their activities. It is what we think is smart and what we think is risky that determines our socioeconomic standing in life, I said. Yes, we do the same things but operate from a different mindset, Rich Dad said. That is why you have always said, what you think is real is your reality, I added softly. That is correct, Rich Dad said. But what about the rich are greedy and the rich are generous, I asked. First of all, you do not have to be rich or poor to be greedy or generous. The world is filled with poor people who are greedy, just as there are poor people who are generous, and vice versa, said Rich Dad. Do you remember me telling you boys about doing more and more with less and less? Rich Dad asked. We both nodded to his question. Well, doing more and more with less and less is one form of being generous. In fact, the easiest way to become rich is by being generous, said Rich Dad. You mean to become rich by serving more people, said Mike. That is correct, Rich Dad said. Any time I want to earn more money, all I have to do is ask myself how I can serve more people. Mike then turned to me and said, "My dad has never said this in front of you, but I think you are ready to hear his next lesson. Your dad has always told you that the rich are greedy, isn't that true?" I nodded, saying, in so many words, "The reason he says that is because he thinks the rich should pay people more and more the longer they work at a job. He calls it seniority or tenure. Is that correct?" I nodded. "But can you understand that for the most part, the person is often only doing the same amount of work or doing the same job?" asked Mike softly. "I understand that," I replied. "But my dad does not see it that way. He truly believes in pay raises based on loyalty and longevity." "So your dad thinks the rich are greedy because they will not pay for loyalty and longevity. Isn't that true?" "He does," I replied. "Can you see how wanting more money for doing the same amount of work can be greedy?" asked Mike. "Or wanting to be paid overtime, or wanting to be paid extra if the job the person does is outside his job description." "But that is how people in my dad's world earn their money," I said. "It is their reality." "That is the word," said Rich Dad. "The word is reality. We come from different realities. In my world, to ask for more money to do the same job is greedy. In my world, if I want more money, I first need to do more and more for less and less money, for more and more people. Then I become rich." "That is why your dad has a bigger house than my dad," said Mike. "My dad has spent years buying and building apartment houses so he could serve more families with more and more affordable housing. If not for people like my dad, many lower-income families would be paying more and more rent because there are so few apartments available. Your dad worked hard to buy bigger and bigger houses for himself and his family. He provides houses for no one else, and yet he thinks that the rich are greedy. It is your dad's reality, but it is not my dad's reality." Mike and his dad were doing their best to point out the differences in the words greedy and generous to me. At the age of 20, I was beginning to make a shift in my reality. I knew that I could choose the reality I wanted, and the reality I was choosing was the reality of my rich dad. And that reality was that many of the rich were generous. I knew that from here on in, if I wanted to become richer, I first needed to find out how to be more generous. How to work less and earn more. "If you want to get rich," Rich Dad said, "don't ask for a raise. Instead, begin to ask how you can serve more people. In fact, if you get a raise, you are working for the wrong kind of money." Most people are not aware that there is good income and bad income. When you ask for a raise, you ask for an increase in bad income. If you want to retire rich and retire young, you need to work hard for the right kind of income. In earlier programs, I discussed the 3 different types of income, which are, first, earned income, income that comes in the form of a paycheck. It is also the type of income you ask for more of when you ask for a raise, bonus, overtime, commissions, and tips. Second, portfolio income is generally income from paper assets such as stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. A vast majority of all retirement accounts are counting on portfolio income in the future. And third, passive income is generally income from real estate. It can also be royalty income from patents or for use of your intellectual property such as songs, books, or other objects of intellectual value. In Rich Dad's mind, the worst kind of income to work hard for was earned income for 4 main reasons. 1. It is the highest taxed income, and it is the income with the fewest controls over how much you pay in taxes and when you pay your taxes. 2. You personally have to work for it, and it takes up your valuable time. 3. There is very little leverage in earned income. The primary way most people increase their earned income is by working harder. 4. There is often no residual value for your work. In other words, you work, get paid, and then have to work again to be paid again. Again, to Rich Dad, there is very little leverage in working for earned income. Why Rich Dad liked passive income. Although he did receive all 3 types of income, if given the choice between the 3, he would take passive income all the time. Why? Because it was the income he had to work the least for. It is often the least taxed, and it earned him some of the highest returns consistently over a long period of time. In other words, he worked hard for passive income because in the long run, he worked less and less, served more and more people, and earned more and more the older he got. Kim and I were able to retire early because our plan had us working hard for passive income, not earned income. Another difference is that we planned on retiring with more passive income and not portfolio income. While most people retire on portfolio income, it is not always the best because it is the second highest taxed of the 3 incomes, and taxes are your largest single lifetime expense. My rich dad had all three types of income. The reason he had all three was because each type of income had different advantages and disadvantages. Let me explain. 50% money. Rich dad often called earned income, the income you receive from a paycheck, 50% money. The reason he called it 50% money was because no matter how much money you earned, the government always took at least 50% of it or more in one way or another. If you make $50,000 a year today, then at least $25,000 may go to the government, most of it before you even get your hands on it, through withholding. Even after you receive that remaining $25,000, the taxing continues on. As most people know, you are taxed when you earn, spend, save, invest, and when you die. From Rich Dad's point of view, it was not very smart to work hard and have the government take at least 50% of what you worked hard for. 20% money. Most people today are attempting to retire utilizing what my rich dad called 20% money, which is money from capital gains or appreciation of stocks and sometimes real estate. 0% money. One of the reasons Kim and I retired early was because we utilized tax-deferred money, what my rich dad called 0% money. Tax-deferred money is money from capital gains that is not immediately taxed. It is deferred for as long as we choose to defer paying those taxes. For example, we put down $5,000 and purchased a house for $50,000. 2 years later, we sold it for $100,000. We had a capital gains consequence of $50,000, but we chose not to pay the 20% in capital gains, which would have been approximately $10,000. Instead of paying the capital gains tax, as you would if you had made the same amount from a stock or mutual fund, we deferred our gains and rolled $55,000, which was $50,000 in gains plus our original $5,000 down payment, into our next investment. In other words, we had a 1,000% return in 2 years and paid no immediate taxes. We legally deferred our taxes and used what was technically the government's money as a down payment on a larger apartment house for